Recently, India surpassed Japan to become the fourth largest economy in the world. And according to current estimates, by 2028, we will surpass Germany to become the third largest economy. And if you take a closer look at our economy, in 2025, its size is around $4.1 trillion. Now, more than 50% of this is service-based, 54% to be exact. The rest is agriculture and manufacturing. And I want to go deeper into this service-based economy. According to Niti Aayog, around 184 million people work in this sector. And out of this, 80% are in the informal sector and only 20% work in the formal sectors like IT and banking. But our focus is this, the informal sector, where almost 145 million people work. This is the bulk of our workforce. But who exactly are these 145 million people? These are the home maintenance and repair people, domestic helps, people working in beauty and wellness, transport services, street vendors and hawkers, people working in delivery and the gig economy, construction, waste management, and many more related sectors. These are the people you can say drive our economy forward. Their hands shape the heartbeat of daily life. They build and run our cities. And although they themselves live in the periphery of the cities, without them, it's impossible to imagine life in urban India. But have you ever tried to imagine their lives? For a long time, this entire sector was highly unorganized. There was no standard pay, and so the middlemen and the contractors used to squeeze these people out by taking a fat commission on their services. Also, there were very few upskilling opportunities for these people, and as a result, their income used to stay stagnant for years. So let's say there's a person who started working as a mechanic at an electric shop for 12,000 rupees. But even after working for many years, the income hardly reached 20 or 25,000 rupees. And the main problem here was that there was always a middleman between the service provider and the customer. This middleman took money from the customers and then paid a very small amount of this to these workers. There was no transparency and a general lack of trust in this entire sector. And because of this, neither the customers were satisfied nor these service providers. But this situation slowly started to change with the advent of technology and service startups. So for example, companies like Ola and Rapido tried to organize the ride-hailing sector. Delivery and Shiprocket organized logistics. And companies like Zomato and Swiggy did the same with the restaurant and food delivery segment. But even after this, there was this huge white space left to be organized. Together, these people accounted for almost 50 to 60 million people. And this was a big opportunity. People in urban India dealt with these service providers on a daily basis. But there was a complete lack of trust and transparency in this entire sector. And this is precisely what excited these three founders. This is the story of Urban Company, how three young founders in their mid-20s decided to go after one of the hardest problems in India, and how over the last 10 years, they have tried to organize India's largest chunk of the informal sector, coming up right after this. And before we start, I want to say that we are now part of Zerodha's Zero One network. And now let's jump into the episode. The story of the three co-founders of Urban Company coming together is one of serendipity and shared vision. So Abhiraj and Varun were classmates at IIT Kanpur and then later went to the US and Singapore to work. Raghav, on the other hand, did his degree in the US and then started working there. But in 2013, all three of them returned to India with a shared vision to build something in their home country.
I realized the thing that was bothering me a lot was I was building a lot of cool technology, Qualcomm, the company I was working at, but I wanted to devote the next 20-30 years of my life building something of my own, something that would actually solve problems back home in India. I think this divide between where India was and where the United States was used to affect me quite a bit.
And this was the vision all three of them had upon coming back to India. For the first few months, Abhiraj and Varun ran a business together where they provided entertainment services to people traveling in buses, planes and cars. But pretty soon they realized that this was not the vision they came back to India for. In Varun's words, we could do that for 2-3 years, but not 20-30 years. We needed to create more impact. You can't become a developed country by showing people movies. And that's when they started looking for that big problem to solve. They began in a very simple and straightforward manner. They just went on roads and started talking to people about their daily lives and also what are some common problems they are facing.
Every morning we would get together and we would go to some or the other public place, from Khan Market to Galleria to these malls in Noida, West Delhi, and just talk to people. What was your last day, week, month like? What were big challenges in life that a new company that we will build can solve?
These street interviews gave the founders the idea that dealing with various service providers is a painful thing. From something as small as fixing a tap to getting the house cleaned, there is just no decent solution. It's like people are ready to pay money, but there's no one to take that money and do a good job. This insight convinced Abhiraj and Varun that this is the biggest problem urban India is facing, and they will try to solve it. I mean, to even think that two 27-year-olds can organize India's massive service sector is absurd. But this is exactly what Abhiraj and Varun started doing. The journey of urban companies started very humbly. In fact, I found this Facebook group which started it all. This is where Abhiraj and Varun found the first set of customers. And this is the first ever post on the page dated 15 July 2014, where Abhiraj asked people to reach out to them for any service they need. And the requirement could be anything under the sun. And people did reach out. For example, this person who needed business cards printed by the next day, and Abhiraj found him a Gurugram-based service provider. Then there is this guy who asked for a carpenter to fix his door, and Abhiraj connected him with a small firm called EasyFix. And this is literally how a $1 billion startup started. Two friends got an idea, they made a Facebook group for it, and then started with just one post. And this gives you a great perspective as a budding founder that the big companies start in a very humble and straightforward manner. The only thing that matters is how deep you can go to solve a problem. In the case of Abhiraj and Varun, they divided work between themselves. Abhiraj looked for the demand side and Varun went out and spoke with suppliers. And very soon the team realized that they were on to something. They would get hundreds of queries every day on Facebook, and pretty soon they needed a website to process all this demand. And by now the duo had met their third co-founder Raghav Chandra, who was a techie and whom Abhiraj and Varun needed to build their website. Finally, after working for 2-3 months through Facebook groups and phone calls, the team launched their website in November 2014 and they named it Urban Clap. And these are the 10 categories they started with. These are what most people needed help with. And so the team found a few service providers of each category and just listed them on the website. After launching the website, the company soon raised their seed round of $1.5 million, and that too from angel investors like Kunal Bell and Rohit Bansal. Then, in another 3 months, they had raised their Series A of $10 million. And all this money helped them expand into 10 cities and 50 plus categories in just 1 year. But the team soon faced a big reality check. See, what Urban Clap had done was they had used technology to help people discover service providers. But that's it. The other issues with this sector like unprofessionalism, lack of training, and non-transparency in prices was still there. And the team soon realized this. See, as a customer, you don't care if it's person A or person B who is coming to your home. All you care is that someone comes on time, they are well trained for the job, and there's a transparent price that both people can agree upon. And Urban Clap had realized this. They had understood that they're not providing enough value, and this marketplace model won't be able to scale.
Very quickly, we realized that in the Indian context, the market is extremely unorganized. Year into our business operations, when we saw that the two sides of the marketplace are not really having a great experience. So that's when we took a call to take one vertical and go very deep in the vertical and at least understand what does it take to deliver delightful services at home bottom up.
And so almost 1 year after starting their service and after raising millions of dollars, Urban Clap completely changed their business model. They picked one category which was women's beauty and went really deep into it. The first thing that they realized was that these beauticians don't have the right tools with them. And so Urban Clap built a completely new supply chain to help them get the right products. Then they realized that many of these people don't have money to buy these products. And so the company helped them with financing. And finally they realized that many of these workers don't have the right training. For example, if someone knew how to do manicure, they didn't know how to do pedicure. And so Urban Clap opened a training center inside their office to train these people. And in this way, the three founders started solving all the problems one by one and came up with a full stack solution to crack the women's beauty category. And this was first of its kind in India. No one had gone so deep to solve a problem like this. And once Urban Clap implemented this solution, something magical happened. The number of repeat customers started increasing. Also, workers started lining up outside the Urban Clap office to join them, as they had now realized that this company helps them with training, tools, and also they make more money. For the Urban Clap, they had finally found the product market fit. They had cracked a model which they could now replicate for more categories. And investors had understood this too. Same year in November 2015, Urban Clap raised their Series B round of $25 million. And most of this money went for training and building a workforce. The next 4 years, the company spent to expand into more and more Indian cities. Their customer base had grown to almost 3 million by the end of 2019. And also their valuation had reached almost $1 billion. This is when the company started thinking about their future growth. And the first thing they did was to explore more markets other than India. See, there are many markets like Southeast Asia and Middle East which are in many ways similar to India. For example, they have a large informal service sector too. And so Urban Clap decided to move to newer markets like these and replicate what they had built in India. The first thing the company did before going global was change its name from Urban Clap to Urban Company, as this new name had more universal appeal and also because clap was a negative slang. In some cultures it meant STDs, and so by the early 2020, Urban Clap became Urban Company and they started operations in UAE, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Australia and the US. This expansion though came at a very bad time for the company, as 2020 also brought the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic hit the global business of Urban Company very badly, and the company had to shut down operations in 3 key markets: the US, Australia and Saudi Arabia. And even though the expansion plans of Urban Company did not pan out as they had hoped, there's one very exciting sector that they are now entering. And that is the home appliance segment. See, Urban Company, by doing thousands of services, had understood the home appliance market very well. They had understood what issues people face with their water filters, their ACs and other appliances. And this gave them the idea of launching their own products. In 2023, the company launched a water purifier under their own brand called Native. And its main USP was that its filter would last for 2 years. They knew the biggest pain point for RO customers is that their filters need servicing every year. And that's exactly what they targeted. And this is a massive opportunity for Urban Company. They have thousands of employees going to people's houses every day. They exactly know what are the problems people face with different appliances. They can make ACs that don't need servicing every year, or a fridge that doesn't need gas filling as frequently as it is now. They have in front of them India's entire home appliance sector, which according to IMARC is worth $64 billion in 2024. This is in fact bigger than Urban Company's core market of home services. Also, this is a high ticket size and high margin business, which would help the company in its P&L statement before they go public. Now, things look great for Urban Company till now. Their revenue is increasing at almost 50% growth rate per annum, and their losses have gone down considerably. But there are a few challenges that the company is facing. Firstly, Urban Company has almost hit a saturation in its core market in India. It's already present in more than 50 cities. And India is a market where top 20-30 cities drive most of the consumption. So in a way, they have very less market left in India to expand to. Now, one option for the company is to go global, which hasn't worked very well for them in the past. The other option is to go after more categories in India. For example, home renovation, elderly care, pet care, and automotive services like car washing. By the way, I'm not making up these categories. The founders have said in public interviews that they have clear plans of moving into these categories. But these are new categories for Urban Company, and they will face competition from existing service providers. Then their product business is risky too, as it requires a completely different expertise. Also, this sector has well-established companies, legacy players like LG, Godrej and Samsung, and also new startups like Atomberg. So it won't be easy for Urban Company to crack it. Let me know your thoughts on this too. Is there anyone who has tried Native RO by Urban Company, and how did you like it? Write down in the comments. Also, let me know your biggest takeaway from this case study. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.